smoker never pictured. Judging from the shape, the monster stood about 20 feet tall, and its frame was surmounted by a head resembling an overgrown frog. Enormous jaws were opened to seize the sheep, but to the amazement of the three observers, the jaws were entirely toothless. Where teeth were to be expected, long parallel ridges of what looked like bare bone appeared without even a rudimentary segregation into teeth. The body of the monster was long and snake-like, and was borne on long, heavy legs, ending in feet with 3 long toes, armed with vicious claws. The crowning horror of the creature was its 4 legs. They were of enormous length, thin and attenuated looking, and ended in huge misshapen hands, knobby and blotched, which grasped the sheep in the same manner as human hands. The eyes were as large as dinner plates, and they were glaring at the camera with an expression of fiendish malevolence which made Carnes shudder. "How does that huge thing ever get through that crack we examined?" demanded the lieutenant. Dr. Bird rubbed his head thoughtfully. "It's not an amphibian," he muttered, "as is plainly shown by the shape of the limbs and the lack of a tail, and yet it appears to have scales of the true fish type. It corresponds to no recovered fossil, and I am inclined to believe it is unique. The nervous organization must be very slow. The nervous organization must be very low, judging from the lack of forehead and the general conformation. It has enormous strength, and yet the arms look feeble." "It can't get through that crack," insisted the lieutenant. "Apparently not," replied the doctor. "Wait a moment, though. Look at this." He pointed to the great disproportion between the length and diameter of the forelegs, and then the hind legs. "Either this is grave distortion, or there is something mighty queer about that conformation. No animal could be constructed like that." He turned the film so that an oblique light fell on it. As he did so, he gave a cry of astonishment. "Look here," he said sharply. "It does get through that crack. Look at those arms and hands. There is the answer. This creature is tall and broad, but from front to rear it can measure only a few inches. The same must be true of the frog-like head. That animal has been developed to live and move in low-roofed cavern, and to pass through openings only a few inches wide. Its bulk is all in 2 dimensions." "I believe you're right," said Carnes as he studied the film. "There's no doubt about it," answered the doctor. Look at those paws too, Carnes. That substance isn't bone, it's gum. The thing is so young and helpless that it hasn't cut its teeth yet. It must be a baby, and that is the reason why it made its way into the cave when no other of its kind ever has." "How large are full-grown ones if this is a baby?" asked the lieutenant. "The Lord alone knows," replied Dr. Bird. "I hope that I never have to face one and find out." "Well, now that we know what we are fighting, we ought to be able to settle its hash." "High explosives," suggested the lieutenant. "I don't think so. With such a low nervous organization, we would have to tear it practically to pieces to kill it, and I am anxious to keep it from mutilation for scientific study. I have an idea, but I'll have to study a while before I am sure of the details. Send me the radio operator." The next day, the bureau mechanics began to dismount the apparatus from the tank and to assemble another elaborate contrivance. Before they had made an end of the work, additional equipment arrived from Washington, which was incorporated in the new setup. At length, Dr. Bird pronounced himself ready for the attempt. Under his direction, 3 cattle were driven into the cave and tethered. They were there the next morning unharmed, but the second night the now familiar bellowing and outside the cave. These cables were attached to the terminals of a large motor, which was set up in the cave near the place where the cattle were customarily kept tethered. This motor was the actuating force, which turned two generators, one large and one small. The smaller one was mounted on a platform on wheels, which would also contain the spark gaps, the reflectors, and other apparatus, which produced the beam of ultraviolet light, which had been used to photograph the monster. From the larger generator led two copper bars. One of these was connected to a huge copper plate, which was laid on the floor of the cave. The other led to a platform which was erected on huge porcelain insulators, some 15 feet above the floor. Huge condensers were set up on this platform, and Dr. Bird announced him in readiness. A steer was dragged into the cave and up a temporary runway, which led to the platform containing the condensers, and there tied with the copper bus bar from the large generator, fastened to 3 flexible copper straps, which led around the animal's body. When this had been completed, everyone except the doctor, Carnes, and Lieutenant Lovingwell left the cave. These 3 crouched beyond the searchlight, which sent a mild beam of ultraviolet onto the platform where the steer was held. The engine outside the cave was started, and the 3 men waited with tense nerves. For several hours, nothing happened. The steer tried from time to time to move, and, finding it impossible, set up plaintive bellows for liberty. "I wish something would happen," muttered the lieutenant. "This is getting on my nerves." "Something is about to happen," replied Dr. Bird grimly. "Listen to that steer." The bellowing of the steer had suddenly increased in volume, and, added to the note of discontent, was a note of fright which had previously been absent. Dr. Bird bent over his ultraviolet searchlight and made some adjustments. He handed a helmet-like arrangement to each of his companions and slipped one on over his head. "I can't see a thing, Doctor," said Carnes in a muffled voice. "The objects at which you are looking absorb rather than reflect ultraviolet light," said the doctor. "This is a sort of fluoroscope arrangement, and it isn't perfect at all. However, when the monster comes along, I am pretty sure that you will be able to see it. You may see a little more as your eyes get accustomed to it." "I can see very dimly," announced the lieutenant in a moment. Dimly the walls of the cave and the platform before them began to take vague shape. The 3 stared intently down the beam of ultraviolet light which the doctor directed down the passageway leading deeper into the cave. "Good Lord!" Carnes suddenly exclaimed. Slowly into the field of vision came the hideous figure they had seen on the film. As it moved forward, a rustling, slithering sound could be heard, even over the bellowing of the steer and the hum of the apparatus. The odor of musk became evident. Along the floor toward them the thing slid. Presently it reared up on its hind legs, and its enormous bulk became evident. It turned somewhat sideways, and the correctness of Dr. Bird's hypothesis as to its peculiar shape was proved. All of the bulk of the creature was in 2 dimensions. Forward it moved, and the horrible human hands stretched forward, while the mouth split in a wide, toothless grin. Nearer the doomed steer, the creature approached, and then the reaching hands closed on the animal. There was a blinding flash, and the monster was hurled backward as though struck by a thunderbolt, while a horrible smell of musk and burned flesh filled the air. "After it, quick!" cried the doctor as he sprang forward. Before he could reach the prostrate creature, it moved, and then, slowly at first, but with rapidly gaining speed, it slithered over the floor in retreat. Dr. Bird's hand swung through an arc, and there was a deafening crash as a hand grenade exploded on the back of the fleeing monster. An unearthly scream came from the creature, and its motion changed from a steady forward glide to a series of convulsive jerks. was thrown, and one hit its cord, which slowed the monster somewhat, but did not arrest the steady forward movement. "Any more bombs?" demanded the doctor. "Damn," he cried as he received negative answers. "The current wasn't strong enough. It's going to get away." Carnes jerked his automatic from under his armpit and poured a stream of bullets into the fleeing monster. Slower and slower the motion of the creature became, and its movement again became jerky and convulsive. "Keep it in sight," cried the doctor. "We may get it yet." Cautiously, the three men followed the retreating order, Lovingwell pushing before him the platform holding the ultraviolet ray apparatus. The chase led them over familiar ground. "There's the crack," cried Lieutenant. "Too late," replied the doctor. He rushed forward and seized the lower limb of the monster and tried with all his strength to arrest its flight, but despite all that he could do, it slid sideways through the crack in the wall and disappeared. A final backward kick of its leg threw the doctor 20 feet against the far wall of the cave. "Are you hurt, doctor?" cried Carnes. "No, I'm all right. Put on your mask and start the gas. Quick, that may stop it before it gets in far." The three adjusted gas masks and thrust the mouths of 2 gas cylinders, which were on the light truck, into the crack and opened the valves. The hissing of the gas was accompanied by a thrashing, writhing sound from the bowels of the earth for a few minutes, but the sound retreated and finally died away into an utter silence. "And that's that," cried the doctor half an hour later as they took off their gas masks outside the cave. "It got away from us. Carnes, how soon can we get a train back to Washington?" "What kind of report are you going to make to the Bureau, Doctor?" asked Carnes as they sat in the smoker of a southern train headed for the capital. "I'm not going to put in any report, Carnes," replied the doctor. "I haven't got the creature or any part of it to show, and no one would believe me. I'm going to maintain a discreet silence about the whole matter. But you have your photograph to show, Doctor, and you have my evidence and Lieutenant Lovingwell's." "The photograph might have been faked, and I might have duped both of you. In any case, your words are no better than mine. No, indeed, Carnes, when I failed to make the current strong enough to kill it outright, I made the first of the moves which bind me to silence, although I thought the 200,000 volts would be enough. The second failure I made was when I missed him with my second grenade, although I doubt if all 6 would have stopped him. My third failure was when we failed to get a sufficient concentration of cyanide gas into that hole in a hurry. The thing is so badly crippled that it will die, but it may take hours or even days for it to do so. It has already made its way so far into the earth that we couldn't reach it by blasting without danger of bringing the whole place down on our heads. Even if we could blast our way into the place it came from, I wouldn't dare open a path which would allow Lord only knows what terrible monsters to invade the earth. When the soldiers have finished stopping that crack with 10 feet of solid masonry, I think the barrier will hold even against the critters Papa and Mama and all its relatives. Then Mammoth Cave will be safe for visitors again. That latter fact is the only report which I will make." "It is a dandy story to go to waste," said Carnes soberly. "Tell it then, if you wish, and get laughed at for your pains. No, Carnes, you must learn one thing. A man like Bolton, for instance, will implicitly believe that a 4-leaf clover in his watch charm will bring him good luck, and that carrying a buckeye keeps rheumatism away from him. But tell him a bit of a sober fact like this, attested by 3 reliable witnesses and a good photograph, and you'll just get laughed